The massive space station spun slowly against the backdrop of stars. Inside the main meeting hall, beings from 12 different worlds sat around a curved table that stretched nearly 100 meters. The annual Emergency Response Summit was about to begin, and the air buzzed with strange languages and clicking sounds as alien species talked among themselves. Jake Miller adjusted his simple black suit and looked around the room. As Earth's ambassador, he felt small next to the towering Xanthari with their silver skin and multiple arms, or the crystal-like Quartzans who seemed to glow from within. Beside him sat his team, Lisa Wang, a fire chief from New York, Tony Rodriguez, a paramedic from Los Angeles, and Kate Sullivan, who led search and rescue operations in Colorado. The meeting started with the usual formal greetings. Then Commander Vextar of the Xanthari stood up. His forearms moved gracefully as holographic images appeared above the table. The images showed sleek silver drones flying through space, putting out fires on damaged ships with precise energy beams. Our emergency response system is fully automated, Vextar said, his voice translated through speakers around the room. No Xanthari life is ever put at risk. Our drones can handle any emergency from a safe distance. The other aliens made sounds of approval. The aquatic Nereids were next. Their representative, flowing in a water-filled suit, showed images of living coral that could instantly seal holes in spaceships. The coral grew and hardened in seconds, fixing any damage without anyone needing to go near the danger. The Quartzans presented their ability to walk through solid matter. They could phase-shift their bodies to remove obstacles during rescue operations. No door could stop them. No wall could block them. They simply walked through everything like ghosts. One by one, each species showed off their advanced technology. Force fields that could protect entire cities. Teleportation devices that could move injured people to safety instantly. Medical scanners that could diagnose and treat patients from orbit. Time manipulation fields that could slow down disasters while help arrived. Jake felt his palms getting sweaty. When his turn came, he stood up slowly. The holographic projector seemed ancient compared to the others, but it was all Earth had. The first image showed human firefighters in heavy yellow coats and helmets, carrying axes and dragging hoses into a burning building. "This is how humans fight fires," Jake said. Simply, several aliens made chittering sounds that the translator marked as laughter. Jake continued, showing paramedics performing CPR on a patient in the back of an ambulance. The medical equipment looked primitive compared to what they had just seen. "Our medical teams work with their hands," Jake explained. "They check pulse and breathing manually. They carry patients on stretchers." More laughter rippled through the room. Jake showed his final images. Search and rescue teams rappelling down cliffs with ropes and harnesses, digging through rubble with shovels and bare hands, carrying people to safety on their backs. When the presentation ended, the silence was broken by Vextar's voice. "Fascinating," he said, though his tone suggested he found it anything but fascinating. "So humans still rely on biological responses to emergencies. You actually send your people into dangerous situations." A Quartztan delegate spoke up, her crystalline form sparkling. "Why would you risk your lives when technology can handle everything safely?" The Nereid representative gurgled something that translated as, "Do you not have drones? Why use living beings when machines can do the work?" Jake looked at his team. Lisa's face was red with embarrassment. Tony stared at the table. Kate's jaw was clenched tight, but Jake kept his voice steady. "Sometimes you need a human touch," he said. "Sometimes you need someone who can think, adapt, and make split-second decisions." "But the risk," Vextar said, waving one of his 4 hands dismissively. "Why put yourselves in danger when safer methods exist?" "Because people are in danger," Kate said, speaking for the first time. Her voice was quiet but firm. "When someone is trapped or hurt, they need help right away. They need someone willing to come get them." The Xanthari commander made a sound that might have been a snort. "How primitive. Your species clearly hasn't evolved past suicidal heroism." The formal presentations continued, but Jake barely listened. He could hear whispered conversations around the room. Words like quaint and backward and dangerous floated through the translations. When the meeting ended, the human delegation gathered their materials in silence. As they walked toward the exit, Jake overheard a group of quartz ants talking. "Did you see those axes?" one said. "They actually chop through things manually." And, "Those breathing masks," another added. "So bulky and primitive." A Xanthari joined the conversation. "At least they're consistent. Their whole approach is based on unnecessary risk-taking." Outside the meeting hall, the human team stood together, in the corridor. Other species walked past them, still discussing the presentations. Jake could see the hurt in his team's eyes. "They don't understand," Lisa said finally. "They've never had to choose between safety and saving lives." "Their technology is impressive," Tony admitted. "But what happens when it fails?" Kate looked back toward the meeting hall. "What happens when someone needs help and all you have are calculations and safe distances?" Jake put his hand on Kate's shoulder. "We'll show them," he said. "Someday we'll show them what it really means to help people." The four humans walked toward their ship, unaware that in just 3 weeks they would get that chance. Behind them, the alien delegates continued their discussions about advanced emergency protocols, never imagining that their sophisticated systems would soon prove inadequate when real lives hung in the balance. The space station continued its slow spin, and in the meeting hall the summit continued with presentations about force field generators and molecular reconstruction devices. But the humans were already forgotten, dismissed as a curious example of a species that hadn't yet learned to value safety over heroism. None of the aliens suspected that this supposed weakness would soon become humanity's greatest strength. The luxury cruise ship Celestial Dreams drifted through space like a floating city. 50,000 passengers from 20 different worlds enjoyed their vacation among the stars. The ship was 3 kilometers long and had everything anyone could want: restaurants, theaters, swimming pools, and artificial gardens that bloomed with flowers from across the galaxy. Captain Kexelar, a veteran Xanthari with silver skin and 4 experienced arms, stood on the bridge watching the stars. His ship was the pride of the galaxy, equipped with the most advanced safety systems money could buy. Nothing could go wrong. The first explosion came without warning. Deep in the ship's belly, the main reactor cracked. Energy that should have been contained burst free, sending waves of deadly radiation through the lower decks. Alarms screamed throughout the ship as automatic systems tried to contain the damage. "Report," Captain Kexler ordered, his 4 hands dancing across control. "Panels. Reactor breach on Deck 15, his first officer reported. "Radiation levels are climbing fast. The containment field is failing." Kexelar's silver skin turned pale. A reactor breach was every captain's worst nightmare. "Seal off the affected areas," he commanded. "Deploy emergency protocols." The ship's computer systems immediately locked down entire sections. Blast doors slammed shut, trapping thousands of passengers in their rooms. The artificial gravity flickered and died in some areas, leaving people floating helplessly. Emergency lighting cast eerie red shadows through the corridors. "Sir," another officer called out, "the radiation is interfering with our systems. We're losing control of entire decks." As if to prove his point, another explosion rocked the ship. This time it was Deck 12, then Deck 9. The reactor's death throes were tearing the Celestial Dreams apart from the inside. Kexelar sent out the distress call that would change everything. "This is Captain Kexelar of the Celestial Dreams. We have a catastrophic reactor breach. 50,000 souls aboard. Request immediate emergency assistance." The response came quickly. The nearest Xanthari emergency fleet was 18 hours away. Too long. Far too long. "Deploy the emergency drones," Kexelar ordered. Dozens of sleek silver drones launched from the ship's emergency bays. They were designed to handle any crisis automatically, without risking living beings. The drones approached the damaged sections, their sensors scanning for survivors. But as soon as they entered the radiation field, strange things happened. Their guidance systems went crazy. Their energy beams fired randomly. One drone crashed into a wall. Another simply shut down and drifted away into space. "The radiation is scrambling their circuits," the first officer reported. "We can't get them close enough to help." More explosions shook the ship. Fires broke out on multiple decks. The artificial atmosphere system began failing, and some sections started losing air. Time was running out fast. A quartz-tan emergency ship arrived first, its crystal hull gleaming in the starlight. Captain Zexara contacted the Celestial Dreams. "We're here to help," she said. "We'll phase shift through your hull and extract survivors." The Quartzens tried their ghost-like abilities, but the intense radiation made it impossible. Their phase shifting required precise control, and the chaotic energy from the reactor made that impossible. Every time they tried to enter the ship, they were forced back out. "I'm sorry," Captain Zexara reported. "The radiation field is too unstable. We can't maintain phase coherence." A Nereid rescue vessel arrived next, its biotechnology ready to seal breaches and provide life support. But their living coral systems died as soon as they approached the ship. The radiation killed every biological component they sent forward. One by one, other species arrived. Each tried their advanced emergency methods, each failed. The energy from the dying reactor was too chaotic, too unpredictable for their sophisticated systems to handle. The Zenthari admiral in charge of the rescue effort, Commander Dexmol, established a command post at a safe distance. His screens showed the Celestial Dreams breaking apart piece by piece. Every calculation his computers ran gave the same result: total loss of life within 6 hours. "There has to be something we can do," Kexler pleaded over the communication link. 50,000 people are counting on us." "I'm sorry, Captain," Dexmol replied. "Our technology simply cannot function in that radiation field. It's too dangerous to approach closer." Inside the dying ship, panic spread like wildfire. Passengers from a dozen species huddled in whatever safe areas they could find. Parents held their children close. Elderly beings sat quietly, accepting their fate. Young couples promised to stay together until the end. The ship's internal communication system still worked in some areas. Passengers could hear the captain's voice trying to stay calm. "Emergency teams are working to reach us. Please remain in your designated safe areas." But Kexlar knew the truth. No one was coming. No one could come. The radiation that was killing his ship was also keeping all help at bay. In desperation, someone on the bridge suggested contacting the humans. Most of the officers dismissed the idea immediately. "The humans?" the first officer said. "Their technology is even more primitive than ours. If we can't help with our advanced systems, what could they possibly do?" But as another explosion rocked the ship and more sections lost power, Kexler made a decision that surprised everyone. "Send a distress call to any human emergency response. Teams in the area," he ordered. "Sir," his communications officer said carefully, "the nearest human ship is the Guardian Angel. They're 4.5 hours away. Even if they came, what could they do that we cannot?" Kexlar looked at the screen showing his dying ship. Radiation levels climbing, systems failing one by one, fires spreading through multiple decks. His passengers trapped and afraid. "I don't know," he admitted. "But right now they're the only option we have left." The message went out across space. "Any human emergency vessels, please respond. The Celestial Dreams is dying, and we need help." Deep in space, Captain Dan Brooks of the Guardian Angel received the call. His ship immediately changed course, racing toward a disaster that every other species had declared hopeless. The countdown to catastrophe continued. 5 hours and 30 minutes until total reactor failure. 5 hours and 30 minutes for 50,000 beings to live or die, and the only help coming was from the species everyone had laughed at just 3 weeks before. The Guardian Angel raced through space at maximum speed. Captain Dan Brooks stood in the middle of his ship's small command center, watching the distress signals from the Celestial Dreams grow stronger as they got closer. His ship looked nothing like the sleek alien vessels. It was built for work, not beauty, with thick metal walls and simple controls. "How long until we reach them?" Brooks asked his navigator. 4 hours and 10 minutes, sir," came the reply. "But Captain, the radiation readings we're getting are off the charts. Our shields won't hold up long in that field." Brooks nodded grimly. He had served 20 years in Earth space emergency services. He had seen disasters before, but nothing quite like this. Around him, his crew prepared for what might be an impossible mission. Fire Chief Amy Carter spread out the ship's blueprints on a metal table. The Celestial Dreams was huge compared to anything humans usually dealt with. She traced possible routes through the ship with her finger, looking for ways to reach trapped passengers. The radiation is strongest near the reactor on Deck 15, she told her team. But it's spreading upward fast. We'll need to work from the top down, getting people out before the radiation reaches them. Her firefighters gathered around the table. They wore simple protective suits that looked ancient compared to alien technology. But these suits had one advantage. They were built to work when everything else failed. No fancy electronics to break down, no complex systems to malfunction. Just thick metal and strong seals. Paramedic Commander Rick Johnson checked his medical supplies. His equipment was basic by galactic standards. Manual blood pressure cuffs, simple heart monitors, basic medicines. But Rick had learned long ago that sometimes the old ways worked best when the new ways broke down. We'll set up triage stations on each deck we clear, he told his medics. Work fast but careful. We might be the only medical help these people get. Engineer Lisa Park was already working on modifications to their equipment. The Guardian Angel's Maudimradir systems were simple compared to alien technology. But that meant they were also harder to disrupt. She rerouted power from non-essential systems to boost their basic radiation shielding. It won't be perfect, she admitted to Captain Brooks. Our shields will start failing as soon as we enter that radiation field. But they should hold long, enough for us to get inside. Brooks gathered his department heads around him. What are we looking at? He asked. Amy Carter spoke first. 50,000 people trapped on a ship that's tearing itself apart. Multiple fires, failing life support, and radiation that's getting worse by the minute. Rick Johnson added, medical, emergencies on every deck, radiation poisoning, smoke inhalation, trauma injuries from the explosions. We'll be treating everything from minor cuts to near-death cases. Lisa Park finished the assessment. Our equipment will fail. Our shields will break down. Our communications will get scrambled. We'll be working blind in a radioactive death trap. Brooks looked at each member of his team. Any questions? A young firefighter raised her hand. Sir, the alien ships have much better technology than us. If they can't help, how can we? Brooks smiled for the first time since receiving the distress call. Because we don't rely on technology to save people. We rely on each other. As the Guardian Angel approached the disaster site, they could see other rescue ships keeping their distance. Sleek Zenthari vessels floated safely away from the radiation field. Crystalline quartz-tan ships maintained a careful perimeter. The aquatic Nereid rescue craft stayed far back, their biotechnology useless in the hostile environment. Brooks opened a communication channel to the other rescue commanders. This is Captain Brooks of the Guardian Angel. We're beginning our approach to the Celestial Dreams. Commander Dexmall of the Zenthari fleet responded immediately. Captain Brooks, our scans show lethal radiation levels around that ship. Your vessel will suffer critical damage if you approach. We understand the risks, Brooks replied. Then why are you proceeding? Asked Captain Zexara of the Quartz-tan ship. Your primitive technology cannot possibly succeed where our advanced systems have failed. Brooks looked out at the dying cruise ship. Even from this distance, he could see explosions lighting up its hull. Emergency lights flickered like dying stars. Somewhere inside, 50,000 people waited for help that might never come. Because that's what we do, he said simply. We don't rescue people with calculations. We rescue them with courage. The Guardian Angel entered the radiation field, and immediately alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Their basic shields flickered under the assault of chaotic energy. Control panels sparked and died. The artificial gravity system started failing. Radiation levels climbing fast, Lisa Park reported. Our electronics are starting to fry. Hull, temperature rising, another engineer called out. The outer plating is heating up from the radiation. Brooks gripped his command chair as the ship shook from energy discharges. Through the viewports, he could see the Celestial Dreams growing larger. The massive cruise ship was a wreck, with entire sections dark and others glowing with internal fires. Sir? his communications officer said. The alien commanders are broadcasting warnings. They're telling us to turn back before we're destroyed. Ignore them, Brooks ordered. Amy, get your teams ready. Rick, prepare for mass casualties. Lisa, keep us flying as long as you can. The alien rescue commanders watched in amazement as the primitive human ship pushed deeper into the radiation field. Their own advanced vessels couldn't survive what the Guardian Angel was enduring. Yet somehow, the simple human technology kept working, even as it began to fail. They're actually doing it, Commander Dexmol whispered to his crew. They're going into that death trap. Captain Zexara's crystalline form flickered with confusion. But their equipment is so primitive. How can it function where ours cannot? The answer came from the Guardian Angel itself. As their advanced systems failed one by one, the humans switched to manual controls. When their computers died, they used paper charts and mechanical instruments. When their automated systems shut down, they operated everything by hand. Brooks felt his ship shudder as they drew alongside the Celestial Dreams. The radiation was cooking his vessel from the outside in, but they were close enough now. Close enough to do what no other species was willing to attempt. Prepare for boarding, he announced to his crew. Remember, we're not just representing Earth today, we're showing the galaxy what it means to risk everything for strangers. The human emergency teams prepared to enter the dying ship, knowing that their primitive equipment was failing around them but continuing anyway. Behind them, the alien rescue fleet maintained their safe distance, finally understanding that sometimes the most advanced technology in the universe was simply the courage to help others. The airlocks of the Guardian Angel opened with a hiss. Fire Chief Amy Carter stepped into the corridor of the Celestial Dreams, her heavy boots clanking on the metal floor. Behind her, 20 firefighters followed in their bulky protective suits. The corridor was filled with thick smoke and the air tasted of burned metal and fear. Team Alpha, take decks 10 through 12. Carter spoke into her radio. The radiation was making the signal crackle, but her people could still hear her. Team Beta, decks 13 through 15. Watch for structural damage and stay together. The human team spread through the dying ship like water flowing downhill. They moved with a coordination that amazed the alien commanders watching from their safe distance. While other species relied on complex communication systems that had failed in the radiation, the humans used simple hand signals and pre-planned procedures they had practiced for years. Carter's team reached the first group of trapped passengers on Deck 11. The blast doors had sealed automatically, trapping 100 Nereid families in a dining hall. The electronic locks were dead, and the backup systems had failed hours ago. Get me the cutting torch, Carter ordered. Her team pulled out a simple device that looked like something from an ancient museum. It had no computer chips to fry, no complex electronics to malfunction, just a tank of gas and a flame that could cut through metal. While alien technology sat useless in the radiation field, the old human tool worked perfectly. Sparks flew as they cut through the door. The trapped Nereids inside pressed their faces against the viewports, hope replacing despair in their large eyes. When the door finally fell away, the families rushed out, speaking their gratitude in gurgling voices that needed no translation. Follow the yellow markers to the evacuation point, Carter told them, pointing to simple painted arrows on the walls. No electronic signs, no holographic displays. Just paint that would never fail. Paramedic Commander Rick Johnson found his first patients on Deck 9. A group of elderly Xanthari had been overcome by smoke. Their silver skin had turned gray, and they barely had strength to lift their forearms. Johnson knelt beside them with his basic medical kit. His scanner was dead, killed by the radiation minutes ago, but Johnson had trained for 30 years to work without fancy equipment. He checked pulses with his fingers, listened to breathing with his ears, and looked at skin color with his eyes. Skills that no amount of radiation could destroy. Smoke. Inhalation, he told his team. Get them on oxygen and prep them for transport. His medics worked with simple tools that had been used for centuries. Manual oxygen masks, basic IV bags, stretchers that relied on human muscle instead of anti-gravity technology. While alien medical systems failed around them, the humans saved lives with their hands and their knowledge. Engineer Lisa Park led her team deep into the ship's mechanical areas. They crawled through maintenance shafts and damaged sections that no automated repair system could reach. The radiation down here was so intense that their dosimeter badges were already turning black. There, Park pointed to a massive crack in the ship's support structure. If that fails, the whole forward section will break away. Her team unpacked welding equipment that looked primitive compared to molecular repair tools, but it worked when nothing else would. They sealed cracks with molten metal, reinforced beams with simple steel braces, and jury-rigged solutions that bought precious time for the evacuation. Search and Rescue Commander Kate Sullivan coordinated the most dangerous operation of all. Deep in the ship's lower levels, a school group of young quartz-tanned children was trapped in a collapsed section. Their crystalline bodies were too fragile to survive much longer without help. "The corridor is blocked," one of her rescuers reported. 20 meters of twisted metal and debris. Sullivan studied the damage. An alien phase shifter could have walked through the wreckage easily, but the radiation made that impossible. A Zenthari drone could have cleared the path from a distance, but all the drones were dead or malfunctioning. "We do it the hard way," Sullivan said. "Get me ropes, pulleys, and cutting tools." Her team worked like miners from an ancient era. They cut through twisted metal with handheld torches. They moved debris piece by piece using ropes and pulleys. They created a human chain to pass equipment through tight spaces. It was slow, dangerous work, but it was working. On the bridge of his Zenthari command ship, Commander Dexmal watched the human rescue operation with growing amazement. His screen showed human teams working throughout the celestial dreams, accomplishing what his advanced technology could not. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving reports from inside the ship. The humans have evacuated over 10,000 passengers in the last 2 hours." "Impossible," Dexmal muttered. "Our calculations showed that any rescue operation in that radiation field would fail within minutes. But the evidence was right in front of him. Human rescue shuttles were ferrying survivors away from the dying ship. Families that had been trapped and hopeless were now safe. The primitive human methods were working where sophisticated alien technology had failed. The breakthrough came when Engineer Park and her team reached the ship's engine room. The reactor core was a twisted mass of metal and energy, too dangerous for any living being to approach. Radiation levels near the core would kill most species within seconds. But Park had a plan that no alien would have considered. She and her team put on the heaviest radiation suits they had, knowing the protection was inadequate. They carried basic lead shields that looked like something from a medieval armory. Most importantly, they carried manual controls that could work even when all electronics were dead. "This is going to hurt," Park told her team. "We're going to absorb radiation doses that might kill us. But if we don't stabilize that reactor, everyone on this ship dies." Her team looked at her with grim determination. They had joined the emergency services knowing that someday they might have to choose between their own safety and the lives of others. Today was that day. They entered the engine room like knights walking into a dragon's lair. The radiation monitors on their suits immediately maxed out and died. They worked by feel and memory, using manual valves and mechanical controls to slowly stabilize the dying reactor. Park's hands shook as she adjusted the control rods. She could feel the radiation cooking her body from the inside, but she kept working. Her team followed her example, sacrificing their health to buy time for 50,000 strangers. From his command ship, Dexmal watched the reactor readings slowly improve. "They're actually doing it," he whispered. "They're stabilizing the core." The human sacrifice worked. The reactor's death throes slowed, giving the evacuation teams more time. Explosions stopped rocking the ship. The radiation levels, while still deadly, stopped climbing. But the cost was terrible. Park and her team staggered out of the engine room, their radiation badges completely black. They had absorbed doses that would have killed most species instantly. Even with human resistance to radiation, they were in serious trouble. As the evacuation continued, one thing became clear to every alien observer. The humans were not just rescuing passengers. They were showing the galaxy what it meant to put others before yourself, what it meant to walk into fire to save strangers, what it meant to be truly brave. The last shuttle from the Celestial Dreams docked with the Guardian Angel, just as the cruise ship's hull finally cracked in half. Captain Dan Brooks watched from his medical bed as the massive vessel broke apart, its lights going dark section by section. But instead of 50,000 deaths, there was only twisted metal floating in space. Brooks tried to sit up, but the pain in his chest stopped him. The radiation had done its work on him and his crew. His skin was pale, and he felt weak, but he was alive. More importantly, so were the passengers they had saved. "Final count, sir," his first officer reported. 49,738 survivors evacuated. "We lost some who were too close to the reactor when it first breached, but we saved almost everyone." Brooks nodded slowly. The cost had been high. Lisa Park and her engine room team were in critical condition from radiation poisoning. Dozens of his rescue workers were sick. The Guardian Angel itself was dying, its systems fried by the radiation field. But they had done something everyone said was impossible. They had charged into a burning building on a galactic scale and carried people out. Dr. Zara, a Nereid medical specialist, floated beside Brooks's bed in her water-filled suit. "Captain, we need to move you and your crew to our medical ship immediately. Our biotechnology can help with radiation treatment." Brooks looked surprised. "You want to help us? After what you did for my people?" Dr. Zara's translated voice was warm. 300 Nereid families are alive because of you. We will do everything we can to save your lives." Similar offers came from other species. The Quartzans offered to use their matter manipulation to remove radioactive particles from human tissue. The Zenthari provided their most advanced medical facilities. For the first time in galactic history, the various species worked together directly with humans. Engineer Lisa Park lay unconscious in a Zenthari medical pod, her body fighting the massive radiation dose she had absorbed. Quartztown healers carefully extracted radioactive particles from her organs while Nereid biotechnology repaired cellular damage. Human doctors worked alongside alien specialists, combining different approaches to save lives. "Will she make it?" Captain Brooks asked when he visited Park's bedside. The Zenthari doctor, Commander Hextor, looked at his readings. 3 days ago, I would have said no. But working with your human medical teams, we have learned new techniques. Your Dr. Johnson showed us how to manually stimulate her body's natural healing responses. Combined with our technology, she has a good chance. Brooks felt tears in his eyes. Lisa had known the risks when she entered that engine room. They all had, but she did it anyway because people needed help. A week later, Brooks sat in a wheelchair on the observation deck of the Zenthari medical ship. His radiation sickness was improving thanks to the combined efforts of multiple species. Through the viewport, he could see dozens of ships from across the galaxy, all carrying survivors from the Celestial Dreams. Ambassador Jake Miller appeared at his side, looking both proud and worried. "Dan, I have news from the Galactic Council." Brooks turned to look at his old friend. "Good news or bad news?" Jake smiled. "The Council has voted unanimously to make humanity the leader of a new galactic emergency response initiative. Every species wants to learn from what you did here. What we did here," Brooks corrected. "It took all of us working together to save those people." The door opened and Commander Vextar entered. The same Zenthari who had mocked human emergency services 3 weeks ago now walked carefully, almost reverently toward Brooks. "Captain Brooks," Vextar said, his forearms folded in a gesture of respect. "I owe you an apology. My people owe you our lives." Brooks shook his head. "You don't owe us anything. We just did our job." "No," Vextar said firmly. "You did something far beyond any job. You showed us what emergency response really means. We had the best technology in the galaxy, but when people needed help, we stood at a safe distance and ran calculations. You ran toward the danger." Vextar paused, his silver skin darker with emotion. "My daughter was on that ship. She was on Deck 12 when your Fire Chief Carter cut through the doors to rescue her group. Your people carried her to safety when our drones failed." The Zenthari commander straightened up. "The Council has asked me to deliver a formal request. We want human advisors to train our emergency response teams. We want to learn how to be brave like you. Over the following days, Brooks received similar visits from representatives of every species. Captain Zexara of the Quartzans explained how her people had always relied on their phase-shifting abilities, never learning to work with simple tools when their powers failed. Dr. Coral of the Nereids admitted that their biotechnology was useless when separated from water, but human techniques worked anywhere. The most moving visit came from Captain Kexelar of the destroyed Celestial Dreams. The Zenthari captain's entire family had been aboard his ship, and all of them were saved by human rescue teams. "I have been a ship captain for 40 years, Kexelar said. "I thought I understood emergency response. But when my ship was dying, I realized I had no idea how to actually save people. I only knew how to manage systems and follow procedures." He looked directly at Brooks. "Your people taught me that emergency response is not about technology. It is about heart. It is about being willing to risk everything for strangers." 2 months later, Brooks stood in the same council chamber where Jake Miller had been mocked for showing primitive human rescue methods. But everything had changed. The chamber was packed with survivors from the Celestial Dreams, representatives from every species, and emergency responders from across the galaxy. Fire Chief Amy Carter, now promoted to Galactic Emergency Response Director, stood at the podium. Her radiation burns had healed, leaving only small scars that she wore with pride. "Emergency response," she began, "is not about having the best technology. It is about having the courage to use whatever tools you have to save lives. Sometimes that means charging into burning buildings. Sometimes it means crawling through radioactive corridors. Sometimes it means choosing between your safety and someone else's life." She gestured to the mixed crowd of humans and aliens in the audience. "We have learned that different species have different strengths. Zenthari technology, Quartztan abilities, Nereid bioscience, and human determination. But the most important thing we all share is the willingness to help others." The new Galactic Emergency Response teams were already forming. Each team combined the advanced technology of various species with human leadership and direct intervention techniques. The model was spreading across known space, and the phrase, "charging into burning buildings," had become synonymous with the highest level of emergency response dedication. Commander Vextar, now serving as Deputy Director under Carter, addressed the assembly. "We used to think that keeping ourselves safe was the most important part of emergency response. The humans taught us that keeping others safe is what really matters. They showed us that true courage is not the absence of fear, but doing what is right, despite being afraid." Brooks, fully recovered and back in command of a new ship called the Guardian Angel II, watched from the audience. His crew, including a fully healed Lisa Park, sat beside him. They were no longer just representatives of Earth's emergency services. They were teachers, showing the galaxy what it meant to put others first. As the ceremony ended, beings from dozens of worlds approached the human teams. Some wanted to shake hands. Others offered gifts from their home planets. All of them had the same message: "Thank you for showing us how to be heroes." The galaxy had learned that what appeared primitive and dangerous to advanced civilizations was actually the most sophisticated emergency response philosophy in known space. Every life was worth risking your own to save. Every person in danger deserved someone willing to charge into burning buildings to help them, and leading the way were the humans, the species everyone had mocked, now recognized as the bravest beings in the galaxy.